The next 5 or 10 years is going to be carnage for organisations. We see it every day in the news. An organisation has gone to the wall. The pace of change, structures and principles and practices that are very old world are preventing organisations changing fast enough. And unfortunately, the pace of change around consumerism and generational change, organisations just cannot keep up. So the ability to be disrupted has suddenly increased, right? The barriers to entry have dropped down, and people are not coming in as a disruptor against your business model. They're creating a whole new business model that just disrupts you. So that's a fundamental problem with organisations, and they need us more than ever.
Well, the first thing to do is to listen, because people call you up because they are frustrated, they're worried, or they've just got a feeling that something's not right. But sometimes they haven't had the time in their day-to-day job to really think through what it is that's the root cause, or what actually might be the outcome that would make the biggest difference.
So Sullivan and Stanley is an award-winning business transformation consultancy. We were born in 2016 with a strong vision to inspire the future of work by building and leveraging the power of an expert movement, growing city by city to offer a general alternative to the management consulting firms that are out there at the moment. So we're a consulting disruptor, and we want to challenge the status quo in the workplace to inspire the future of work. The company's named after my 2 children, so Sullivan is 8 and Stanley is 6. I don't need any more motivation to make this business a success. But fundamentally, the reason that I did it is because I want to inspire a future of work for their generation, not only for those 2, but for their generation. My background in executive recruitment gave me the privilege to go into businesses where I could fundamentally see what was working and what wasn't working. And I could just see that actually the world of work was something that was quite stale. So a lot of people dead behind the eyes, working for 9 to 5, living for the weekends, living for holidays. I don't think that's something that I'd like my children to enter into. So my big game is to inspire the future of work, and that's why I named it after my 2 lovely sons.
In today's world, the organisational structures and management practices and principles that are used are no longer fit for purpose. They're essentially a reflection of where we were 100 years ago in the Industrial Revolution.
So there's 3 big problems in businesses at the moment. So problem number 1 is there's a capability gap. So organisations actually don't have the ability to change. Problem number 2 is there's a speed gap, and that means they don't have the agility to change. So if you think about what's going on in industry at the moment, is pace of change is relentless. We're in an era of hyper disruption. And the 3rd big problem is they're stuck in an outdated operating model. So most organisations were built and optimised for the last century, which I call the industrial era, and they're not built to succeed in this century. So they're sat in organisational structures that are too big and too bloated. But what I see as the ultimate problem is that there's no service partner that can help people navigate this disruption curve. We were built to actually solve these 3 problems.
So what we do here, and what I think is so nice about the way we operate, is we bring in experts who are actually committed to, involved in getting the thing solved, rather than regenerating something you've solved before.
We use experts who, they bring their expertise, they bring their battle scars. That's the differentiator for us. A difference between a pre-canned solution versus bringing experts to sort out a really complex problem. Organisations are struggling to attract and retain talent. Sometimes they can attract them, but they can't host the talent because actually they're bought in and stifled by the rest of the organisation. So there are 3 principles we need to think about when we're moving towards a more agile type organisation. So firstly, you think about a principle around complexity. If you understood how complex the world is, you'd fundamentally deal with change in a different way in your organisation, and you'd structure your organisation in a different way. A second principle around people. If we had a real belief in people with the right environment around them can do amazing things, then we'd start to, we change the way we work, we change the environment they're in, we change the way they're managed. And thirdly, if you have the 3rd belief around continual improvement, you'd understand that today's not perfect, that's okay. We'll learn things and we'll improve from there, and we have this constant cycle of continual improvement.
So what we do is, as well as reducing a capability gap by injecting teams of experts, they work alongside the permanent workforce to upskill, knowledge transfer, share IP, co-execute the program, which will play out in ways of working, play out in new operating model, play out in the ultimate aim, which is transformation, then retiring the word transformation and teaching them how to continually improve and continually reinvent. And we do that through the power of the expert crowd, and we do that through our point of view, which is a 90-day approach to things, which is delivering value every 90 days to keep the board, the leadership team and the whole organisation aligned.
So the Change Society is based around a belief, and the belief is that the best minds in the industry actually sit outside of the permanent workforce. And those best minds in the world want to work on the most complex problems. We have a very unique vetting process who help determine and give a fully rounded view of a person before we bring them into the Change Society. We have a term which is, we say we're unashamedly selective. And so that's what we've done. We've created a group of experts who can give a very much an outside-in view of the world, where some organisations struggle with that sometimes, and bring a very pragmatic point of view and a pragmatic solution to some of the biggest problems.
If you can create those kind of environments where everybody does things a bit on their own terms, you have so many more different points of view. That makes it more fun. So it's very boring otherwise.
And I think finally the sum of all parts is we have a future business manifesto that we want to take in several years to every boardroom globally. As we find that once we get an executive attention around the globe, then we'll be able to affect our Business for Good campaign, which will inspire the future of work and will unite execs and businesses across the globe to align to UN global goals, which is a big passion of ours.
There's a real opportunity now and in the future to create more diverse organisations with diversity, not just of types of people, but the thinking that brings, and the freshness and the opportunity that is, the connectivity with your community that you serve, whether you're a public sector organisation or a private sector organisation, I believe is vital to creating that internal transformational ethic, which is essentially what it's all about.
I think organisations today really need to be comfortable that they might be fundamentally different organisations in the next 5 years, and that's quite difficult for exec groups and leaders and boards to be comfortable with. I do empathise with a lot of executives and boards and leaders that are out there at the moment, because business is hard. But actually a lot of this can start by just taking a pause, taking some time out and thinking about where do we want to be in the next 3, 5, 6, 7 years to capitalise on actually what is fundamentally going to be a transformative decade for everyone. Opportunities are everywhere. Take that pause, find the right partners and build that organisation that can change and transform every year, because my belief is that companies that put change at the heart of their agenda will be the ones that win.